Recently, I've been invited to Los Angeles to try out Crimson Desert, and I got to play for about 6 hours, and it was a pretty fun time. After the event, I also got a copy of the game to try it out, and at the time of this video, I have about 40 hours in this game. And honestly, I think that's too low to make an honest review, but I was a bit busy, and if it's anything I saw within those hours, then I think this is going to be one of the best games that I've played. In case you don't know, Crimson Desert is an action-adventure game by Pearl Abyss, who created the prequel game Black Desert Online. The major difference is that this game is single-player only with a more story-focused gameplay. I saw a lot of hype for this game on Twitter as people saw the gameplay and were calling it the game too good to be true, and I think a lot of that has to do with the amazing looking graphics and gameplay, tossed in with the cool looking dragon mounts that you could ride in and fight enemies with. I think the main attraction this game had for me is the freedom it gives you pretty much at the beginning, where you could go pretty much wherever you want. I saw the amazing landscape the world had, and I'm not gonna lie, I deviated from the main quest line for a bit and went exploring. And doing so, I kinda got myself lost a bit, but fell in love with exploring this world. I went to the giant mountains in the distance, and surprisingly, you can climb it despite not having leveled up your stamina. And the view up top is just gorgeous. I think a lot of players are gonna have a lot of fun exploring the world and just taking in the view and taking pictures. One of my favorite things to do is use the glide mechanic you learn pretty early in this game and jump off the floating islands called the Abyss, and while you fall down, you can glide and admire the scenery and seeing which locations that I might go to next. Here's a map of the world of Crimson Desert. It's really big, and you will start out in Hernan and gradually make your way to the other areas by completing the main quest line. I know some people were also worried that the game might not perform well due to how great it looks. On their computers at the LA event, it ran pretty well, and on my own PC, it gave me a solid 80 FPS on a 4K monitor at ultra settings, but I know not everyone has that kind of computer, but for the most part, there are no glitches and frames are really stable, so I wouldn't be worried there in terms of performance. Talking about graphics and world design, they really nailed it, especially with the towns being filled with people that actually make the city feel alive. You can enter every building and do almost everything within reason. So you can climb through every building, you can actually go through the windows, and the developers really made the rain and the weather in this game look so realistic with the lighting and reflections. It's a rare event, but when it does happen, I just stop whatever I'm doing and enjoy the scenery. Now, we have to talk about the puzzles. Puzzles are going to be one of the hottest topics of Crimson Desert, and that is because the game will not hold your hand with them. They're scattered pretty much throughout the map, and it can contain valuable loot, but also serve as a teleportation point on the map. But the developers really removed the yellow paint from them, and I can promise you that a majority of the players will be looking up guides or the wiki to solve them. Even in the event, I was stuck on a particular puzzle, and after trying to solve it for a good 15 minutes, Fighting Cowboy helped me out with it. But the particular thing about these puzzles is that while they are hard, once you solve them, it kind of makes sense. But I know a lot of people are going to dislike solving these kinds of puzzles, especially if there are no tips and whatnot. But the developers actually told us that this is a deliberate design choice where they want the players to talk together online to solve them and interact as a community. I think it's an interesting idea, and it will certainly make a lot of gamers rethink their puzzle solving skills with this game. And the puzzles don't really stop with just the maps either. Most of the main quests will have these puzzles as well for you to do. And while some of them might come easy for the players, there will always be one where it'll just like leave you scratching your head for a good bit trying to solve them. At the beginning, for the most part, you'll be focused on blocking and rolling in fights. And there's even a perfect parry mechanic where you will regain stamina after timing your blocks to the enemy's attacks. Stamina plays a big part in this combat system, and if you don't manage it well, you are going to be in trouble. Large groups of enemies actually play to their advantage and will rush you with numbers, so if you're not careful, they will absolutely stun lock you. Trying to block every single attack won't work. Your stamina will drain so fast, so early in this game, I tried my best to take out enemy camps as strategically as I could, and if there are actually a large group of enemies, they are going to be a deterrent in the world, so just watch out for that. If you're playing the game, you can level up your stamina and attack, as well as health, and in doing so, you will unlock certain abilities that help in each of those areas. To level them up, you need what's called artifacts that are scattered around the world, so it's incentivized for you to actually travel around the world and try to find them. And another interesting thing about these artifacts is that after picking them up, You don't get to use them immediately. Each one has a unique challenge or task for you to do, which after you will actually unlock, and then you can use them to level up your skills. Some of them are pretty easy to do, such as sliding down a hill for a certain distance, but some of them are like really obscure and will be annoying to deal with, so most of the time, they're just in my inventory waiting to be used. And let's talk about the bosses. There are a total of 76 bosses in this game, and they are unique in terms of design and attacks. But I do have mixed feelings about them. In my experience with the bosses so far, they are kind of brutal. I played a lot of Souls games, and I would say that I'm decent at them, but the bosses in Crimson Desert can feel overwhelming sometimes. For example, one of the bosses in this game will have you fight a giant troll-like monster, but you're fighting in a really tight, cramped building, and he has this one particular move where you can't really block the attack, and the tracking is quite insane that it's gonna feel very overwhelming in this tight cornered space. This fight felt really unfair for most of the time, and will definitely be a giant wall for many players. And I can see a lot of people hating this boss when the game releases. And also mentioning boss fights, some of them have 3 phases. So if you're not prepared on food or items, you're not going to be having a good time. Um, the good part about it is that any item you use during a boss fight isn't consumed if you fail or decide to give up the fight or encounter, but getting enough food for healing during boss fights is also a struggle in itself, so just good luck doing that. And I'm going to say fighting bosses and fighting normal enemies are worlds apart when it comes to approaching them. You're going to feel like an anime character being able to fight off a large group of enemies, but for the bosses, you have to learn their attack patterns and sometimes their gimmicks that are unique to them, or otherwise you're not going to be able to beat them. But going back to game mechanics is there are a lot of things that you can do in this game that the game doesn't explicitly tell you. In one of the earlier parts of the story, you're supposed to climb a tower that is blocked by vines, and I learned later that you can actually just climb the tower itself to get on top of it, but you can also use your bow and get close to one of the bonfires lit near the tower, and it can actually lit up your arrowhead. And then when you shoot the vines, it actually burns them. But the game doesn't explicitly tell you that this is possible. It just tells you to either get to the top or burn the vines. And other times I was trying to sneak into an enemy camp, and when I saw this fallen tree that was acting like a bridge, I tried to get on top of it, and then the tree actually broke in half, which alerted the enemies to my position. So these kinds of interactions really made me immersed in this game, and there are a ton of these in Crimson Desert. Story-wise, the developers made an interesting choice of adding a fast forward button instead of a skip, and it seems like it speeds it up by about double speed or so. I'm guessing they made it this way so players have to learn the lore regardless if they want to, but I really wish they had an option to skip it entirely if it's not the first time the player's seeing the cutscene, because this also applies to boss fights. Any major boss fights that have multiple phases usually have a minute or two long cutscene in between them, and having to hold a fast forward button between fights kinda take me out of the immersion. As for the story itself, I wouldn't call it bad, but also not perfect like any other game. The main thing that shines in Crimson Desert for me is the exploration and freedom of it, so if you're a fan of that aspect, then this game is definitely for you. I won't spoil the story in the video because I want you guys to enjoy it, but in my personal opinion, I would say that it's designed well, and you can feel for each character or even the NPC you come across. So in conclusion, Crimson Desert has a great world design with graphics and a really fun combat system that also comes with a skill tree that actually feels rewarding to do. The cons that I can think of so far is that the puzzles can be difficult, the story also might not be to your taste, and the controls can get chaotic sometimes. But I think the pros outweigh the cons for this game to shine, and I can see myself putting in at least 100 hours into this game. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.